On show.
Hey, and welcome to the Unwind. Apparently, I'm getting kicked off the show
So
now.
funny.
Where we talk about all things tech and video games. And today we were all about the Xbox One. And I am your favorite Microsoft fanboy, Rob Still.
And I'm Josiah Hills.
And I'm Shawn Thomas.
And
So,
yes, go ahead, Sean. Take it.
as Rob stole my thunder, I think there's a big reveal this week. The major tech news was from Microsoft. Microsoft decided to unveil their new console, the Xbox One, which, by the way, awful name, and I feel bad for HTC because they stole their branding. And how
What
do
do you
you
think? What do you actually think about the name? Because I mean, it's the third system,
Yeah,
and
so
I think 50 years from now, people looking back are going to be like, I have no idea when the system came out because it's not numbered in order.
exactly?
when I was reading it, so I didn't actually watch any of the video for the reveal, and I was reading it, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. One box to rule them all, and it's the one box in your living room. And then as went back the next day and I started watching video, and people were calling it the Xbox One, and I heard that, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It sounds a lot worse when you hear it than when you read it.
And I think, I mean, the whole idea is, yeah, it's one, and you have to spell it as O-N-E. That's what fits. If it's just the number one, it doesn't work as well. The
Yeah,
thing is, it doesn't fit when you're against the PlayStation, which does PS1, 2, 3, and 4. Like when HTC did the one, they never had any kind of number scheme at all. So it kind of worked in some weird way because you didn't correlate it with any, you know, numerical order relating to chronological order. With this, I mean, they went from the 360 to the one. I think it might be better than Infinity because if you did Infinity, you kind of can't go
what's after
anywhere
that?
from there. Like,
Infinity plus one.
yeah, it's like Infinity Square, but it's still the one. It's one of those kind of things where I'm like, I don't know how this got through all the levels. Like, I don't know how, but whatever. Anyway,
I'm surprised they didn't just call it like the Xbox 8.
just like,
They'll just skip everything else. And they're like, you know what? We're going with this whole Windows Phone 8, Windows 8. We'll just call it the
oh,
Xbox
that's
8.
true. What do you
Well,
think about when you
and
see
Infinity is an 8 on its side, so they could.
we thought of it like an 8 laying down. That
Yeah,
that's okay.
lazy 8.
I think we just
Anyway.
did better than their entire marketing team.
So that aside, they unveiled Xbox One. It's an interesting system. Basically, well, it's a new console. It has similar specs to the PlayStation 4. It's based on similar architecture and things like that. It has all the basic things you want. It has a Blu-ray drive, 500 gig hard drive, cloud storage, which we'll get into a little bit later.
8
Obviously, there's
gigs
a
of
lot of folks.
RAM. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the spec thing, we'll get into a little bit later, but to me that wasn't that big of a deal. One thing that was immediately apparent is that they really wanted to focus on the television, how it's going to integrate with TV, and a little bit less on games. It was about the whole press conference was about an hour long, which another thing that was super short compared to everything else we've seen recently.
Half
They
as
were
long as Sony's, yeah.
they were just throwing out things. But anyway,
Well, not to mention that, but they said beforehand that this was going to be kind of a two-part unveiling, and that
Hmm.
the first one was going to be more about the hardware and their vision, and the second part is going to be at E3 in a few weeks, talking more about the games that they're going to unveil.
yeah, I mean, I know, but I mean that's the same thing that PS3 is going to do. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
That's kind of the opposite.
Well, what I mean
PS4 didn't even have a box to show off.
oh no, sorry. What I mean is that I don't think I think PlayStation 4 has laid out a bunch of its cards or the main pieces. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be huge TV side things. I don't know. I feel like this kind of set the tone that this is what the Xbox is. Um, like it's your media center device. They called it the One, all that stuff. So I don't know. I understand the two-part thing.
Well,
But
I think that's the angle they're trying to push, right? Like that's the new market for them, and that's something that Microsoft has been trying to do for a long, long time with Media Center and all that stuff. So
I mean, you look at the conference itself. I mean, they spent the first half hour talking about TV, and they didn't even mention games until
I'm
closer.
pretty sure I kind of did a short calculation. I believe there's 30 minutes before they start talking about games at all. They spent about 15 minutes on games, and then they spent the last 15 minutes back on TV where they introduced more stuff.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of crazy. Like one quarter they're just talking about games, and the rest was TV.
yeah, but nobody expects them to take a step backwards as far as games go, because they're pretty much the hardcore gaming console right now. They've been killing it as far as sales go, so nobody expects a step backwards. They might not step as far forward as a PS4 as far as the graphics and stuff, but they have similar specs, so I think it'll be comparable, and they just wanted to showcase what was new about it.
So this is something I want to talk about because this is something I find interesting. I think there was a bit of backlash because of this. Like a lot of gamers were very disappointed that there weren't many games, and some people said there's going to be more stuff at E3, which is true. But people were still disappointed. Like this is a gaming console. Why are you focusing on TV and all that? And I actually totally agree with what you just said. I don't think there's going to be that much difference in terms of gaming, aside from indie games, which we'll get into later. But in terms of big studio releases, I mean, most of the best games are multi-platform anyway. Like people always talk about, oh, this one's better at gaming, that one's better at gaming.
Right.
The PS3 versus Xbox 360, come on, like you can't tell the difference between any of the games. You can tell the difference between those and PC maybe, but I mean, no one can tell the difference. You really just go for whatever your friends have, or maybe exclusives definitely do pull people at times, but a lot of really awesome games are all multi-platform. So aside from indie games, which we'll get into later, I feel like they're both going to do the same thing. I don't think there is a better at gaming anymore, unless like the PS2 could destroy the original Xbox because I said original Xbox because they had
Wait, the Xbox One?
No, sir, actually, but it had a lot of the PS2 had a lot of good exclusives. Like it still had the Final Fantasy series, it still had Grand Theft Auto. It had Metal Gear Solid, although it kind of later went to Xbox, but they still had a lot of those exclusives. Last generation, like all the key ones, Halo, like Uncharted, Gears of War, yeah, there are a bunch, but like so many of the best games came out for every day.
So they did say that there's going to be 15 exclusive titles to the Xbox within the first year, 8 of which are new franchises, which is kind of a funny word to say. And
oh, they know it's going to be a franchise.
Yeah,
they did their market research.
Connectables 3, 4, and 5. Well, that's another thing. So I wonder, are those franchises or whatever? Is that exclusive stuff Kinect stuff? Because I hope it's Xbox stuff. I mean, I want some Kinect games, but it almost feels like a cop-out if it's like, 10 of them are Kinect games. Obviously, they're going to be exclusive because, PlayStation, Sony has moved away from the move. Like, they have it in their controller, but it doesn't seem like a main part of their strategy. Yeah. So I really hope a lot of those are gamer games.
Well, they already talked about a couple. There was Quantum Break, which was that live action start, and then it turned into just a boat hitting a bridge, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I think they're the same studio as Max Payne, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll see.
So I mean, obviously,
it's funny because I was the only one. Oh wait,
no.
Forza Motorsport, but I mean, it's you have Gran Turismo or Forza Motorsport.
I think at the game side, it's definitely going to be at E3, and that's where you're going to start seeing.
Yeah, I mean that's
hopefully
true.
More of these titles come out. But like you said, I mean, I think it's smart. And obviously, I'm a little biased, but I think it's smart that they're trying to move away from solely becoming a video game console, because, like you said, most games come out for both consoles anyway. And to be honest, during I went back and I was looking at the PS4 unveiling, and I don't think there was one game that I really saw that was an exclusive that I was like, oh my god, I need to get this. I mean, they showed Knack, which was that little like.
Well, what exclusive games did they show?
For what? PS4? Kills. They had the new Killzone, which I didn't.
Oh yeah, they had all the sequels.
They had Infamous, which I wasn't. But I. So, yeah, I mean, as far as games go, I mean, I don't really see a difference between the two consoles anymore. I don't think that's going to be a deciding factor for a lot of people.
And a lot of the big franchises are they're getting kind of old. Like Gears of War, Gears of War has already gotten to the point where they got to start using names instead of numbers because they know it's like too tedious. Halo, I mean, they'll make them, but. I mean, they're going to be on Halo 5. Or, I mean, it'll be more than 5. It'll be like 6 or 7. And then on PS3, I'm sure they could do another Uncharted still. I'm still waiting for Crash Bandicoot.
Another Mass Effect, man. That's coming.
Mass Effect will be multi-platform. I mean, just God of War. I mean, God of War has been done to death.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no game that's really going to come out where it's just like, okay.
Well, hopefully they create something new. I mean, if there's the new...
There really wasn't this generation, though.
Yeah, there were. I mean, well, I would say Gears of War, Uncharted,
Mass Effect, but that became multi-platform in the sequels.
Oh, was it originally Xbox exclusive?
Yeah.
Oh, I know that. There are others. Oh, Metal Gear Solid was only on PS3.
Funny because they're all games I didn't play.
Yeah, but they're all like really high quality games. There's another one. Why am I not thinking of it? There's a bunch of other solid games, but I don't know. But it didn't feel like you really felt left out unless that was the game you had to play. I mean,
I will say, interestingly enough, The Last of Us, which is one game that I'm really looking forward to this summer, is only PS3.
PS4. Oh, wait, do you know? Is it coming out for PS3? Because you can always get the PS3 version and
just PS3. That's all it's coming out for.
No, it's not coming out for PS4.
Not The Last of Us. Not that I know of.
Oh, I thought it was next gen. Okay. And Watch Dogs is gonna be multi-platform, which is funny because Sony hyped it up. I was telling Rob I thought it was a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah.
We could keep talking about it, but
the one thing I'm pissed though is that now it's pointless to buy any games. Instead of just waiting for next gen console and buy it on that. Like FIFA, I'm not going to buy that in September and then buy it again.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the same problem BlackBerry had for a year and a half. Not to totally change subjects, but I mean BlackBerry was saying, BlackBerry 10 is going to be out, and
BlackBerry 7.
They didn't sell any phones for a year and a half. So I think same thing's going to happen with consoles right now.
Let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about the Kinect because that's one of the areas I think Xbox won, and I'm going to say that kind of loosely over PlayStation was.
No, it definitely did.
I mean, the move was a disaster. As much as Kinect, they never really made any good games for. It still was a lot better than the Move was.
Well, I think that's going to be the big thing. It's up to the developers to use that.
Right. No, absolutely. So the Xbox now comes. The Xbox One comes bundled with the second iteration of the Kinect. And they were showing it off, and it supposedly tracks more joints.
Oh, the Kinect one?
No, this is the Kinect 2, Sean. It comes with the Xbox One, so get it together.
Okay,
sorry. But it tracks your... So the big thing they were hyping up in the beginning of the unveiling was the whole voice command thing now. So basically, you can turn it on with voice even though it's off, so that means it's always listening to you, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah, that's broken. I don't get it.
So Shawn and I were debating about this. So they were going through demoing different features where you could say, okay, Xbox, go to my game, and it goes to the video game. Go to TV, go to channel, whatever. And I'm not totally convinced that it was a live demo. Only because
I think it was.
Yeah, but they showed. So when he said he was showing off the fantasy basketball portion of it, they were showing an NBA game that was clearly not live.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think they chose Wheel of Fortune? They're like, this is
yes,
what
everybody loves Drew Carey, Sean.
I don't know. They could have, but as it sounds naive, but I think it'd be too big of a deception. They don't do some things to deceive you, but that was literally. I mean, I didn't hear anyone specifically, any reporter ask them, was that a live demo? I think everybody kind of assumed it.
Honestly, I hope it's that smooth. Although, funny enough, I heard that a lot of people who were watching it on their current Xbox with their Kinect hooked up, every time they were doing a command saying Xbox do this, it ended up shutting down their stream because it was trying to actually do it.
Right.
So that's actually kind of funny. But so that basically there's supposed to be this whole new voice integration, so or recognition. So like if I come in and I say, okay, Xbox do this, it just knows it's me and it signs me into my account and things, which is kind of cool.
Wait, so you're saying it recognizes your voice?
Yeah, so I come in and I say Xbox on, and then it knows it's me. And I don't know if it's partly because it sees me and part voice recognition, but it signs me in automatically, which is pretty cool.
So, so I couldn't turn yours on? Unless, like,
you might be able to, but I think you might have to set up your own account. I don't know, I mean, they didn't explain
because it's a little thing, but it's interesting because as voice recognition.
I don't want you turning on my Xbox, Sean.
Well, no, that's the funny thing. So, well, actually, wait. Oh, maybe you can't turn it on, but you can do everything else. Because clearly it recognized Don Matrick's voice, or actually, what is it, like Yusef?
No, it's
whoever was doing it.
But I just can see a situation where I'm watching Sean. Oh, well, we all know Sean's not going to buy it. So let's say I'm watching Dave, my friend Dave, play a game. He's just about to score a goal, and then I say Xbox TV, and it just shuts over to
exactly, right? You don't want that, like it's almost like a photobomb, but for your Xbox Kinect, right?
I can't wait to do that, and I will kill anybody who tries to do it to me.
I don't know. They have to do something for that, and I know they're thinking about it. They're not.
I would hope so.
But they didn't say any way to mitigate it. I mean, unless you do the authorized voices thing, I don't know what you would do to prevent, like, in-room grouping. I mean, the only way, they might avoid it, assuming that it's just going to happen a small portion of the time, because nowadays, same room gaming, I don't know, like split screen gaming and stuff, I think is going down a lot.
I'm writing an article about that.
Yeah.
As soon as the cycle's up.
Maybe they assume it's just not going to happen, but and I don't think it'll work like this, but what if you could turn it off? There's one thing to switch to TV and you kind of get annoyed, but it's another thing if somebody turns it off just by saying it. Like, I don't know. But I guess they could always just run behind the PS3 and turn it off, too.
Well, I mean, here's an example for you. One of the guys who's on twit.tv, he's been testing out Google Glass, right? And so he's got a 3-year-old daughter, and so he was saying, okay, Glass, to take a picture and stuff. And she picked up on it, so she started walking around, following him around, and saying, "Okay, Glass," and he's like taking pictures because his daughter's saying it. So clearly, Google hasn't figured it out yet. So
I'll just say, I just hope that it works as smoothly as they demoed it, because how many demos have we seen that it just never works out the way it's supposed to? I would think that since that's one of the hallmark features of this system.
Hey, the Chrome voice recognition worked really well, and they specifically said it was a live demo, so there's no reason to think Microsoft couldn't do it. It doesn't guarantee it, but I think it was. And, they showed videos of the Kinect afterwards. It looked a lot smoother. Everything looked like it's everything everybody wanted the Kinect 1 to be. So I think it's there. It's a question of can developers create any unique ideas? Like, is there anything interesting they're going to make? Or now that it's bundled with Xbox, the key, and you have to have the Kinect.
That's the other interesting thing is they came out. They didn't say this during the conference, but afterwards they were coming out and they're saying that you can't actually use the Xbox unless your Kinect is plugged into it.
Right.
So that means if you break it, you can't use your Xbox at all, which is kind of a strange concept.
How else are they going to watch you at night, though?
They're always going to be listening to you.
I imagine you just hear Steve Ballmer respond. Windows 8 is great. Thanks.
Hey, have you been developing anything lately?
But yeah, I mean, and that also means there has to be a market. Like they have to be able to sell the Kinect separately, right? I mean, I think they will because they already said Kinect 2 will support the PC. So I'm assuming they're going to be able to sell Kinect separately, so people.
Mhm.
But yeah, because
Yeah. Sorry, but
uh,
We'll see. I mean, right now they have like the Xbox controller for PC, but it you can't just, at least maybe I'm doing something wrong because I have a Mac, but
maybe it's because you
you
have a
can't.
Mac.
But you can't just take your Xbox 360 controller and plug it into
I can.
your PC, can you?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to buy
that's
one
a,
for Windows.
It might be a
um,
Mac thing.
that's actually so. That's one of those things.
Must be a
If
Mac thing.
you know, if you're thinking about buying a controller for your PC, definitely get an Xbox controller if you have a Windows PC. Because one thing I've also realized, most games. So if you buy a regular gamepad, all the buttons are numbered. It's like one, two, three, four. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. If you have an Xbox controller, Y is one, B is two, X is three, and then or whatever. A is three, X is four. Anyway, it's really annoying. And whenever there's QuickTime events, it's like press one and two, and you're like, I don't know which ones those are. So what I've realized is that if you have an Xbox controller, it just maps it to all the things you already know. And I have a PS2 controller, and I use this little program that emulates it, so it thinks my controller is an Xbox controller, and it has pretty much all the same buttons. I mean, I have muscle memory to know where Xbox buttons are. So if you have a Windows PC, I would get either an Xbox controller or you know using the emulator.
So since
So
we're talking about controllers, what do you think of the new controller design?
So it is pretty much the same. They got rid of the battery, so the battery pack is inside of it, so it's a little bit not as
Yeah.
chunky. They apparently can tell when you switch controllers with people. Like if I was sitting next to Shawn and you were trading off, if I gave it to Shawn, it would know to log him in. Which also PlayStation said that they're doing the same type of thing.
Hmm.
I guess the difference is that I don't know how the PlayStation can detect where the controller is going because it has the move sensor. The Xbox has a Kinect, so it can see your face. It knows like wherever you go,
Right.
it knows that you're switching. So I don't know what the PlayStation does. I think if the person holding controller two switching to controller one, it knows that. But it doesn't know like if you start tossing around controllers. I don't know.
Start juggling
Trying
with
to
them, right?
confuse it.
Yeah. But the
But-
Kinect, it puts it with your face, so it
They also they added rumble to the triggers also, which is kind of
Yeah.
interesting. I have no idea what that's going to be like.
I saw a couple of guys talking about it on GameSpot. They said it was surprisingly cool. Like,
That's what I heard. Yeah.
for example, like if you use it as an accelerator in a driving game, there's a little bit of resistance as you accelerate and stuff like that, or a little bit of resistance as you pull the trigger for a shooting game or something like that. So I think it could be pretty cool. But after a while, that stuff, you just kind of become numb to it, and
Right.
and it just kills your battery at the end of the day.
Well, so I've heard it's cool, but be honest, when you guys first saw the Rumble pack for the N64, I'm pretty sure that's the first thing that used it. Were you like, yes, this is going to be the thing that every controller from
Steve,
now
you
on,
say that. You
and
say
they're
that.
going to expand?
You say
I
that. But
just never
now,
thought that.
you say that, but now it has it. Every controller does.
No,
that.
that's what I'm saying. Like, did you
It's
ever
crazy.
think this, like, analog sticks?
No,
Amazing.
everybody thought it
Once
was
they switched
stupid.
that, it made so much sense to use analog versus D-pads. Like, it was just, but like Rumble, like it's cool, but I never thought this would be the key feature that every single controller. I mean, besides the Wii. I mean, the Wii, but they went a completely different direction. But it just amazes me of all things that stuck with the system. It was rumbling. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's probably cheap to do, so why not? But
Sure. Anything else?
Get that idea.
Anything else you want to talk about the controller?
I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty much the same. But in my opinion, the Xbox 360 controller is the best controller. So I don't.
Do you have an opinion about the PS4 controller? Because it has a touchpad built into it, which I don't understand what the hell you use that for. Because quite honestly,
It seems like a play kind of like the Vita. That's what the Vita had, the touchscreen on the back, and it's
yeah,
there.
but you got to take your hand off of it to do anything.
I've heard
Yeah.
inventory management they're going to use it for, which I guess sometimes it's nicer to use that. Like on PC, if you have a mouse, clicking around is sometimes easier. But really, I don't know. That's one of those. You're gonna have to prove to me why that's useful. It's not immediately apparent, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, it's not that big, but maybe like drawing patterns. Like if you ever played that, I forget what Zelda game it was. But I think it was on the N64, or no, on the GameCube, where you had to.
Right, but I mean that's a small like little, mini game
Yeah,
thing.
it's a stretch. I don't know.
I mean, it could. I mean, they could be thinking of it the way how the DS was successful, and that was all. The difference is the DS had a screen. That was the second one.
Right.
It could also be the next thing that's built into every single controller.
Wait. So is the PlayStation button below that then? It must.
Yeah, below the little light strip.
Well, because the touchpad takes up a pretty good chunk of space.
Oh yeah, I guess. So.
I don't know. We'll see. They haven't really talked about it. Hopefully, and related to that, not that big a deal, but the Xbox controller, the Xbox button is moved up, which is kind of nice, so you don't accidentally hit it.
Mm-hmm.
And really, there's never a reason where you need to access it unless you want to do something major, like you want to get out of the game. You're like, there's no, I need quick access to the Xbox button. So I don't think it's a positive thing.
And the D-pad is recessed now.
Yeah,
it's not on that rocker,
yes.
So that should be much nicer, actually.
Yes, that's probably the biggest thing. You're right.
All right. What other features can we talk about?
Okay,
We're
talking about hardware. What do you guys think about the actual thing itself? The look of the Xbox One?
It's huge. I mean, it's massive, right? Which is one thing. And just honestly, and I'm stealing this from other people, but it just looks like two separate boxes mashed together. I mean, because there's like the matte finish and then the kind of groove finish or whatever on the two different sides.
Gross.
It looks terrible. But I will say it looks better than what Sony didn't show. So honestly, at the end of the day, I mean, I couldn't care too much about what it actually
looks like. Probably 80% of the people just want a black box.
Yeah, I mean, as long as
they can hide away.
Yeah, as long as it's not making an obscene amount of noise, which I mean, it has vents around the entire thing, so hope that it's keeping it cool and quiet.
One thing that I think, I think part of the reason for the vents is to reduce noise, I would think, because then you have less fans, maybe more passive cooling, I think, and then they just tried to integrate it and make it look like that was part of the design stuff. I mean, literally, the whole thing is vents. Like, half the thing is vents. And, so, I agree. Like, it's not a huge deal. It really does look like a VCR, and not in the cool retro way. It's kind of sad how apt of a comparison that is. I agree. It's not that. It's definitely not a deal breaker, but I don't know. I can't remember the last time I saw a good-looking console. Like, I'm sorry, the PS3 to me looks horrible. I kind of like the Xbox 360.
I like
the original Xbox was weird. The original Xbox was the same way. It had a lot of grills. That's the whole thing. And the PlayStation 3 was a grill. It was a George Foreman where he lived off the round part. And then you're like, I don't know. I just like I actually. My brother has an Apple TV. I really like it. Just simple, small. It's not complicated at all. It just looks okay. I don't know that many. I don't know. Like cable boxes never look that good. I haven't seen a Roku, so.
Rokus are small and similar to the Apple TV, but they have this really weird rubberized tab. Like it's either fabric or rubber. But it's something like a Levi's tag or something, like Levi's jeans used to have those tabs on the seam there. Back in the day, it has a tab like that. It's so bizarre. It's just really out of place, but whatever.
You just don't understand. Roku has this design tab. But whatever, yeah, you're right. It's not a big deal, and I think heat is a huge thing. Apple TV and Roku don't have to worry about heat. They're just playing 1080p movies.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a good thing. And we haven't seen what the PlayStation 4 is, but I don't know. It's not a big deal. I just wish somebody made it cool.
I will say, so there's a lot of ports that come out of the back of the
Yeah.
Xbox One, and I did read today that it's going to be 4K compatible.
Yeah.
So, which I would imagine that PlayStation 4 is. But later on, we'll talk about going back to our wish list, and one of mine was having it upgradable, and obviously that's not possible. Like, you're never going to find that in a console, I don't think. But I think
I really think it needs to. I don't know.
well, not so much upgradable, but just the longevity of it, right? So I mean, we had this last generation for what, 8 years?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm saying that.
Yeah, but nobody has an original Xbox 360 thanks to the Red Ring of Death.
Yeah, that's true.
But you can fix it if you can hack it.
Right?
I got a PS3 at launch. I still have the same one.
No, you didn't get it at launch because yours doesn't have the PS2 backwards compatibility, which is another thing we can talk about, right?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, wait. But either way, you got it early.
I got it early on.
And
I
it was like
PS3.
2006.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh yeah, I still have the Dreamcast. That's why that held me through for another year after launch. That was fine. I didn't need to go anywhere.
I mean, I get your upgradability thing, but yeah,
my point is, the longer it can last, the better, right? I mean, if I can get 6 years out of this, then I would be more than happy with that.
Well, did you have a problem with your Xbox 360 or your PS3? I mean, it definitely could.
I can't say the Xbox 360 I bought much later on. I got it a year and a half ago. The PS3 I've never had an issue with.
Sorry, I don't even mean hardware-wise. Like, did it break down? I mean, definitely games look better on a PC. But the thing is, when you're sitting that far away from the system,
have you seen how I play video games, Sean? Yeah. I sit 2 feet away from a 55-inch TV. That's how I play games.
Dave, are you on the line? No, but you know what I mean. For the most part, people are sitting further away.
Yeah, but all right. To your point, though, I will say that over the past year and a half, I've switched to PC because I can get much better graphics out of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think for me, the only reason why they wouldn't do upgradability is because the main point. I mean, I guess they could expand it, but one of the main advantages of consoles is that they have a very specific hardware spec, and you don't have to deal with multiple systems, and you just know what you're programming for. And I feel like if you throw in upgradability, and for them as a value proposition, I'm sure they'd much rather sell you a new console. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's R&D costs and stuff like that, but I would think, I mean, we'll see though. But did you have more to say on that, or?
As long as we stop getting the red rings, man. I mean, they have to make sure that I mean, a lot of people have that issue of getting that, and they have. And like I said, I've had the PlayStation 3 for at least 6 years, and I've never had one hardware issue with it. I will say I did get a red ring on my Xbox. I did also mod it, so that might have influenced.
I'm pretty sure it didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, you know what's funny though is I was able to fix it though. It wasn't that hard, but that was just me.
I mean, hopefully they have more experience now. Hopefully they figured it out. I mean, 360 wasn't their first console, so that's kind of sucks they had that problem. But yeah, actually, and this is going back to something we were saying earlier. Yeah, Microsoft made the Surface, which is that awesome, what is it, magnesium something.
Oh yeah, the magnesium alloy,
whatever
casing or whatever.
Blend metal.
They spent all that.
Also,
they put that on the Xbox or something. I don't know.
It also has vents all the way around, so apparently
Microsoft's
doing that.
but only the Pro. But you can tell.
Well,
Whatever. Anyway, sorry. I'm getting back to stupid things. But anyway, related to the hardware, interesting thing. The hardware is very similar in the Xbox, as far as we know. The Xbox and the PS4. They're both going to be on an AMD chipset. The graphics are on board. Like, everything's on the same chipset. I mean, they might differentiate in other things like RAM. I don't know if they will. And the way they deal with RAM, I believe, is different. I think the Xbox One shares its video RAM with its just regular system RAM, whereas PS4 has dedicated. also, and I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys know more about it, but I think the PS4, what is the graphics card is bigger. It's a really way of simplifying it, but it has there's some difference in the GPU where I don't think it's just more memory. It's more
pipes.
cores, what do they call it? Yeah, I was gonna say pipes, but I was like, okay, maybe you talk about it. I'm totally butchering it.
I don't know. I didn't read up on the specs. Like I said, I think the hardware is similar enough that it really comes down to optimization on the developers' parts. And in this current generation, we saw it. You know, there'd be some games that were released for both platforms, but it looked a little bit better on whichever platform. You know, and it wasn't always consistent. It wasn't like PS4, PS3 always had better looking games. It was just whatever that developer house was better at optimizing for, you know. And I think the PS4 is going to be on OpenGL and
Really?
Xbox One is going to be on DirectX, DirectX 10, right? So
Can they not use DirectX?
what's that?
Can they not use DirectX? I mean, would they not license it out or something? Or would they?
Well, Microsoft makes that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess there'd be no reason. That's interesting, though. I didn't think about that because, I mean, most PC games still end up being DirectX.
Right. So in theory, you know, Xbox One has a slight advantage that, you know, if things are going to look amazing on the PC, they'll probably look pretty good on the Xbox One, or it'll be easier to make it look good on the Xbox One versus the PS4.
So I think, I mean, it's positive for PC gamers because it's going to be a lot easier to port, hopefully.
Right.
But I don't think it really says much in terms of differentiating. I completely agree. I think they're going to have pretty much the same games on both in terms of graphical.
So, to me, the bigger thing, which we kind of mentioned earlier, is how do they incorporate Kinect, right? Because that's going to really differentiate things. Or on the PS4 side, how they integrate that touch sensor and the move.
Yeah, you can move the controller around.
It's like playing and then, oh wait, let me slide my finger across the touch sensor. Awesome. Or, you know, maybe rub it against your nose or something.
Puppy kisses. What's the thing where you rub your noses against?
Kisses.
It's gonna be,
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't think either of them have proven this. Like, Kinect is one of those things where I'm like, man, it is so awesome, but it can't do anything yet. I mean, it can, but it's so cool the fact that it can detect it. You have no controller. Like, it just feels
it's
like
better.
so
It's
awesome.
better in theory than they've actually made anything happen.
Why isn't anyone figured it out? I mean, I understand some things. Like, for example, even if you made a game where you can actually do the motions, walking, you can't.
Just Dance.
Yeah. No,
So-
but Just Dance is a good example of something where they did a good job because it's not DDR where it's like up, down, left, right, up, down,
Hey
right.
man,
It's like real
DDR is
dance.
my jam.
But like Just Dance, you actually learn a dance move. I feel like that's a good example of how.
I was much better at DDR than I was at Just Dance. Let me just tell you. And
What
it's
color is your skin?
mostly because I'm white, yes. But anyway, that's another other time. I mean,
You bounce around a tree.
there's
That's my
there's
whole.
obviously there's a lot of similarities between the two systems. They both have this kind of low power state that it goes into when you're not playing it, and it resumes.
Oh,
super
PS4 does?
fast. Yeah, so they're both in a thing where if you're in the middle of playing a game and you turn it off, like when you turn it on, it'll be a second and you'll be back in the game at the same point that you were. So both of those systems have something like that.
Right.
They're both gonna have this game DVR capture. I think it was Magic Moment for Xbox. I think that's what it's called. But basically, it'll take any epic moments and you'll be able to upload it to whatever video streaming service. I will say, what was it? Sony has Gaikai, right? They bought them out. So they're gonna be able to have other people come in and live watch your games, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that Xbox is gonna be able to do. And also they had a feature where if Shawn was playing a game, I could jump in from my house and actually take over and play as him. Which
Really?
yeah. So Shawn can't beat a boss. Well, let's say I was playing Demon Souls because I hate that game, and I'd be trying to fight one guy and not being able to do anything. And I was like, Shawn, just come in and play as me and beat the whole game, and I'll watch you. He'd be able to do that. But honestly, I don't see that as being a feature that many people would use. Although I will say it would be pretty cool to be able to watch pro gamers live.
Yeah.
But
that was something I didn't expect, but it was a smart move for both of them. I think they really understand watching videos has become a really integral part of gaming.
But I think Sony has the edge, though.
I actually think it's going to depend less on that and more on how you access the videos. In that, what's going to be the way, like when you turn on Xbox, personally, I mean, they're changing it, but I always hated the PS3 menu system. I thought it was really just too much stuff. And Xbox, even when they had the Blade interface, like every step they've been at least a little bit more integrated and smarter on that. If they make it easy to find games to watch or connect with it, I think that'll, like in League of Legends, start out, you can just hit spectate and it shows you pro game and you just click on it. It's not.
Xbox does have a Windows 8 kernel, just saying. I will say I love Xbox 360's dashboard much better than PlayStation's.
Without a doubt.
Hands down.
And the PS3, it's never changed, really. I mean,
no, it's always been the same.
They did at home. Actually, they haven't talked about PlayStation Home. Where's my guy gonna go?
First of all, you need a PlayStation 3 to have home, Shawn. So
I have several copies of me on all the PlayStations I've played over the years. So they're all.
Is that what you do when you come to my house?
I go with my avatar and go bowling and harass people. But I think Discovery is going to be, because I actually didn't know Xbox was going to have the game DVR thing. I mean,
I don't know. I had a feeling that if they didn't have it, they were going to scramble something together that said they should have it.
It's just a software solution. They could throw it in on top of anything pretty quickly.
I will say it will be, because I think Sony said that they were connecting directly with Facebook and was it Ustream, right?
Yeah, Ustream.
So and Xbox alluded to something similar where you'd be able to connect, like it was all about real life connections and
Skype.
I would imagine, I mean they had Skype, which would be pretty cool, I guess. What was the other thing? They announced a new Call of Duty, which I don't want to do it too. I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of that game. But they added dogs. They added dogs. They added motion capture too, so they're super realistic moving dogs, and that'll be good. No, the other thing that was interesting though, they did
dog technology was on my list. It was number 6.
They did talk about, and Shawn and I were texting during the conference, and I called that they were going to do a live action Halo series.
Yeah, he definitely called that.
And it's funny that they're doing it with Steven Spielberg.
So, I looked into Steven Spielberg. He has a lot different past than I thought. First off, he's actually a gamer. He's he's been recorded as actually. I mean, he didn't list out the games he played, but it sounded like he actually did play games. Not I've tried out solitaire before. But he also
Minesweeper.
He made that game, or he produced that game, Boom Blocks, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that. And did you know he also created the Medal of Honor series? From the beginning. I don't think he did. I don't think he was a game designer, but he was the creator behind Medal of Honor.
So, wait, doesn't he do Falling Skies right now?
He does. I didn't realize he does. He executive produces. They're not all on at the same time.
Does he actually have anything to do with any of this, though?
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I mean, he's the S in DreamWorks SKG, right? So he can say he's a producer on pretty much anything.
That's what I mean. I was like, how much of an influence do you actually think he had? I mean, it's just his name, I think, that they're throwing out there.
And what I was telling Rob is he was actually there at the Kinect unveiling. So I think Microsoft just knows him, and they're like, hey, let's toss him in.
Yeah.
And it's a great name to put on things.
Sure.
But I didn't
honestly, so it's funny because we talked about Defiance a little bit earlier on in this the series, and the whole transmedia push that they're trying to do, and now it seems like a lot of games are trying to do that all of a sudden. Even though I don't think that Defiance doing that well. Like I know it got picked up for a second season, but I mean on the game side, I've never heard anything. I played it for a little bit. It was okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about it since I'm not watching the show, and I haven't heard any echoes about the game since it originally launched.
Well, I mean,
I think they've been trying this for a while. I mean, TV shows I think is a new thing. I mean, they did the web series for Halo, Forward Unto Dawn. I never watched it, but they at least had it. Movies they've always done, and
they've always been terrible.
Stuff. Yeah. They somehow have made money, so that's really all that matters. But they've usually been pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, I think the exception is like straight to TV anime series. They've done a lot of those for games, and I'm not saying they're great, but like they did it for Dead Space, they did it for Dante Inferno.
Actually, I mean Pokemon was.
Yeah,
that was a game and TV show, right?
Pokemon's unique.
Yeah, well, I guess all right. So live action shows, right?
Yeah.
I personally, I don't know, maybe it is. I don't think this is a huge new strategy for everybody. Halo is like a known brand, so maybe I don't know. I don't know why they're doing it, but I
think it comes down to money, right? Because it's a lot cheaper to do an animated series than a live action series.
Yeah.
And, it's a good point with that because I remember they were going to make the Halo movie. What's his name? Neil Blomkamp, who did District 9. He was supposed to do a Halo movie, but then they're like, we don't know if we have enough money and we don't trust this guy because we have no idea who he is. So then he made District 9, and because it did so well, now
he lost on that.
But, no, I mean, the point is that
they should have got him because that was
I think they still haven't, but you're right, though. Making this TV series would be a lot cheaper than making a movie, so they're not sure if it's gonna how it's gonna do. But
the other big partnership was with NFL, which is something I found really, like I don't watch football, so I mean that's not something I would personally partake in, but that's a huge partnership and something completely different and out of the box. I think that they're trying to.
Yeah, that sounds cool, but I don't have cable, so and I don't think it's going to let you use an HD antenna or anything, so it's something I'll never really experience. But
well, so what does it do? Like, what can you watch? I mean, which I don't think it is, if it was, hey, you can watch NFL games without having cable, which is never going to happen, that would be awesome. That would be cord cutting, a la carte. And, I mean, it would go towards more like, I like the NFL, but I don't care about baseball. Now I get just what I want. But, I mean, I don't think that's happening.
No, I really don't know what they're going to do.
Well,
I mean,
in theory, it could. I mean, I don't think that's what they announced, but in theory, it could, because that's what the MLB app lets you do. It lets you watch all the baseball games live. It does black out your local games, though. But I mean, that's a paid subscription. It's like a couple $100 a year or something.
Does it give you all the big games as well?
It gives you every game except for the blackout area. So, living in Western Connecticut, I couldn't watch the Mets or the Yankees or something like that when they were playing on live TV. But otherwise, I could watch every game.
It's just like, I mean, it doesn't sound like a big deal at first, and you realize you're probably going to be following a team that's near you. Not always. I mean,
not everybody.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, but I feel like that's a big enough portion that it kind of sucks. But I understand. I mean, they need to keep the revenue. But that, I mean, I could see it being a deal breaker. I mean, think about it. The Yankees are super popular, don't get me wrong, but how many of their fans are in Connecticut, New York, and Jersey? Yeah,
so I mean, it works out for a lot of those big teams where their fans aren't local, like the Red Sox, the Braves, the Yankees, the Giants, those teams that have pretty big national followings. It works out for them. But I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about the used games. or
Yes.
whatever.
So this wasn't talked about in the conference itself, but afterwards, reports came out saying that you can still sell your game after you play it, but if you buy a used game, you have to pay a fee in order to activate it. And they didn't talk about how much the fee was going to be, anything like that. So it's and also I read another report afterwards that said Microsoft isn't necessarily forcing this to happen, but they're giving developers, I guess it'd be publishers, right? The option to do this.
So here's the so I'll talk about an analog to that exists right now in current gen, and then I want to point out one thing that makes a big leaves a big question mark in my mind. So the first thing is, I just recently finished, or about a month ago, I finished Mass Effect 3, right? And that has a if you buy it used, you can't play it online unless you pay. You have to use Xbox.
A lot of EA games already have this. Yeah.
So I mean, it would be very similar to that right now, where you'd have to pay, if you bought the game used, you pay $5 to play online or something. So in that sense, okay, I get it, fine. I usually try to buy new games anyway, especially if it's a game that I like or it's a developer that I like, just to support them. But the other thing though is, because when you buy a game with the Xbox One, you have to install it. So if I sell it, can I still play it on my machine that it's installed on? If that's the case, I'm pretty sure that's against copyright. Right.
I would imagine. So they haven't been completely clear with this, but I would imagine that once someone else activates it, you can't play it anymore.
Okay, first of all, I am like 90% sure they have not decided this yet. If you saw how much confusion they have,
right?
Like VPs and
I think somebody started shooting off at the mouth, and they were like, "Cut it.
Yeah.
We've got it figured out. We'll announce it later because we can't talk about it because we didn't figure it out yet."
I mean, definitely they're still figuring this out, and so that's why I almost feel like any news report on it, like one of them is eventually going to be right, but none of them, you can't trust any of them because you really don't know, because there's so much confusion. And I was thinking the same thing. So they do have the pay money to unlock the game. I think a couple things that changes significantly is all the EA games only for multiplayer. You can still play the game. Imagine if Mass Effect you couldn't play the single player. It's just the multiplayer component of Mass Effect isn't a big deal. Not compared to the single player. Imagine if you couldn't play the single player. You literally don't have the game unless you pay it. And then the question of
it's just a surcharge onto whatever the use price is, right? So that what that does is it drives down. So if that's the model, right? Just economically speaking, it's going to drive down the cost of used games to the point where people can't make a good profit off of it, right? So like GameStop and blah 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 can't make a profit, so people opt to buy the new game because they get the new box, they get the new, they get the whatever. They don't put a lot of extra stuff in games these days, but it used to be like you'd get cloth maps and all that stuff. But anyhow, if that's the case, then potentially it could kill the used game market, right? Because if I could normally buy a used game for $20, but now I got to buy it for $20 and pay an extra $10 to play it, then I'm paying $30 for the game. So why not pay $40? I know that's not what new games cost, but I usually, you got to remember, I usually buy my games a year or two after they come out. So in my situation, I'd rather just buy it new, because by that time it's down to about $30 anyway.
And it's funny because the used game market, like, definitely eBay, you can make a killing, or you can save a ton of money. But at GameStop, they take $5 off. And admittedly, it's not a big deal because most of the time the game discs are really clean, so really you're just saving $5. But it's kind of funny that you really don't save unless you go for older games or don't go to GameStop. I feel like. But anyway, I think the fee, how they're going to price the fee is also a big deal because well, people were saying, okay, so like you said, you have to install the game. You don't need to run it off the disk anymore, which I think is awesome. I think
That's awesome. Yeah.
Faster load times, and it'll be a lot quieter because they'll read the disk. But the thing is, you install it, you sell it. Now, is your license for the game revoked? Because if it is revoked, then I mean, it sort of makes sense because if you sell your used game now, you can't play it.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then there becomes a situation where you can just buy the game, sell it.
Well, yeah, like if you and I both wanted the same game, we could go in on the price plus the extra fee for the second person, and we'd be paying for half.
But I think they'll end up doing the deactivating thing because I mean,
right. They have to.
You don't own
they
it.
have to.
The only problem I would see is, but I don't think this. One side note, I read a lot of commenters talking about this, and they created a lot of situations which are true, but it almost feels like, is this big enough to matter? So if you go over to your friend's house and you play it on his Xbox One, is it going to deactivate yours? Or, I mean, I guess you can
log in. You can't. Yeah. In order to play, so you can bring this is another big debate, is whether you could bring games over to someone else's house and play it. So the way that it was explained in this one article I read is that you have to sign in as yourself on that other system in order for that game to work. So the keys are tied into your account.
Okay.
And once you leave, even if you left the disc, they couldn't play it unless they were still logged in as you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So essentially, like right now, I could give Shawn a disc and he could borrow it and play it, no problem. But that wouldn't be the case. You can't borrow games, essentially.
Yeah, and then you'd also have to install the whole game. I mean,
or so if with the new system, then I would let one of you guys borrow the game, and you'd have to pay whatever $10 to play it under your account.
You'd have to rebuy it.
Why?
No, I guess that's true.
I'd sell it to you for $0. Go play it.
Well, that's assuming that
you pay EA that $10 fee.
Well, that's assuming that it's $10 and not $30.
I mean, that's the question.
To be completely honest, though, I think more and more we're going to end up buying games from the online store than physical discs anyway. I mean, PlayStation was clearly moving towards that because they were talking about the whole thing, how you could download it, play it at the same time. I just, to be honest, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the instant comparison is Steam. You can't sell games.
Right.
Steam games. I mean, you only have so the way I feel like the reason why Steam works is because of their great sales. Like they do a big sale and people buy them. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like for some reason, like I don't feel like they have the same leverage. I think part of the reason why they can move it around so much, and I could be totally wrong, is that PC sales have been going down so much, so there's more wiggle room to do whatever you want. These humble bundles and stuff like that. With the PS3 and Xbox, like they're always $60 at the start. They go down to 40. Don't get me wrong, and if they don't sell well, but like they don't. I don't feel like there's as much of the big sales like they do on Steam.
Yeah.
So, and I assume that's an industry thing, not just we just never thought of it. So if you factor in that, it makes it a lot more confusing to have digital only. Because I mean, if you had to pay full price for every Steam game, I don't think you would have as much adoption. Like,
I mean, are games usually $60 when they come out on Steam?
So that's nothing. A lot of PC games are actually $50. Not all, but a lot of them are $50.
They're mostly $49.99 or whatever.
I mean, personally, I like you said, I don't think. Obviously, the market's there to sell $60 games still, so I don't think it's going to happen on a console. But I'd much rather have a Steam-based system.
But you're right, Rob. I mean, this fee would have to be pretty large because otherwise, we would just go in and buy the game together, right?
I mean,
like
the fee's probably going to be
the fee would have to be at least half the price of the game to stop people from going in and buying the game together. Right? Because if it's $60, I buy the game. I pay you $30. You pay $30. We buy the game. So we paid $30 for the game, and unless the fee is another $30 for us for me to play the game used, then I got a discount on the game, right? So the fee has to be at least half the price of the game to stop people from doing that.
So I think the big question is, I think we all agree, like, the point of it is to, I mean, the point of it is to get money out of used sales, but I think more is to kind of push used sales to the wayside. I mean, first, it's funny, a lot of people are blaming Microsoft, and admittedly, Sony's not doing this, they've said that. But really, this is all pressure from publishers and developers. Granted, Microsoft is a publisher, but like the Xbox itself, the Xbox doesn't lose money on sales because
so here's Microsoft has broken the model, right? Because the thing that they have that the PS4 doesn't have is you install the game to play it, right? And that breaks the model, the used game model, because before that you always had to have the disc to play it. So now that I don't have to have the disc, I can do what Rob was saying. We can both buy one disc, install it on both our machines, and yeah, if I pay a fee, I pay a fee. But like I was saying, if the fee is not more than half the game, we got a discount. Collectively, we got a discount on playing on 2 copies of the game.
Well, 2 things. Do they say? I mean, so you don't have to play with the disc at all, right? Like you can just not even insert it.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the point I was trying to get to was that a lot of people were concerned. They say this is clearly a part on Microsoft to get more money and so on and so forth, and it doesn't help the gamer at all, which is
right.
Which is true. Like you don't get any advantage. The faster load times is irrelevant compared to the used game sales thing. I mean, even if they had just a basic CD check to start it and they install the whole game, you could do the same thing.
Well,
anyway,
they did say. Just if I can interject really quick, they did say the whole always online thing isn't true, but you do have to connect to the internet once every 24 hours or something.
That gets into another thing. Let's get into that in 1 second. I just want to say one thing. Do you guys think so? Like the reason why I was saying I think most of the pressure for this, I think, is coming from publishers and developers. Apparently, GameStop has no leverage at all. Do you think that in order to support this, the Xbox might be able to get more exclusives? That people are saying, developers are saying, because it is true, the developers don't get any money out of used game sales. Yeah. So, do you think? Because I think that's the one area.
That's a good point.
Happens, I think that's the thing that gamers win on. I don't know if it'll happen, but if they do end up supporting it, I mean, I feel like that. To me, that's the only play that Microsoft's trying to do. Who else are they satisfying? I mean, GameStop's not happy about it.
I think they had to do it because as soon as they say you can install the game, then people are going to freak out about piracy. So
yeah.
So I think they had to do it. It's an interesting compromise. We don't have enough details to see if it's going to work, but I like your theory about appeasing the publishers and maybe getting more exclusives. That'd be cool.
And honestly, even if piracy isn't a big deal, I think people think it's a big deal. So it doesn't actually matter when you're talking about creation of games. It doesn't necessarily matter what the truth is. It matters more what people think it is. So even because I feel like I don't think Xbox is the only one you can pirate. PS3 doesn't have a really good way of getting burned games on there. I don't think Xbox sales are doing significantly worse than PS3s in terms of software sales. But regardless of that, I mean, I do think there are people in the industry, though, who feel very strongly, especially PC manufacturers, or PC game makers. But I think that this could gain support among developers who want that.
I mean, I guess that's the silver lining, right? Is that there would be more exclusives because of this system. I mean, like you said, I mean that's the only big positive from the gamer side that I can really see. Yeah, unless they brought the price down below $60 to begin with. But I don't really see how that would. I mean, taking people out, like you said. I mean, they've been selling so well at $60. They really have no incentive to bring
And a side
I
note,
wouldn't be surprised if they jack it up, right? Because they did that from generation to generation. Like original Xbox, not Xbox One, but original Xbox games used to be cheaper than $60. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, and this is one thing a lot of people talk about, but I mean, I'm checking right now, so let's see.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go up to 65 or 70 on average.
So a lot of people talk about how it's getting more and more expensive to buy games, but which is true.
Inflation,
But I think people forget, yeah, inflation. So let's say 2005.
It stayed $60 over 8 years.
So let's see. So PlayStation 1 came out in '96, right? So. Oh wait, sorry, that's PlayStation 1. PlayStation 2 came out in 1999, I think. And then Xbox and PS3 came out in like 2005, 2006. So let's see, $50.
Oh, you're doing an inflation calculator?
Yeah, like just to see, because I think get that.
I'm pretty sure it's not just based on inflation, because you got to look at. Well, you do the calculation and let me know. It's an interesting hypothesis, but you think about like. Game budgets and production values are just through the roof for the better of gamers, right? But you're getting professional movies as movie actors as voice actors. The special effects rivals blockbuster movies, so the production cost should go up. I'm all for it, but when you have a crap game that costs $60 because you've got to support the I mean, you have these blockbuster games that cost $60, but then you also have these crap games that cost $60. So,
I could see that. Yeah, I didn't, and I totally agree. I think it's both inflation and.
Yeah, clearly there's been inflation, but I think it's the higher production costs.
So $50 in 1999 would cost $58.54 in 2005. So the only thing I'm saying is I think a lot of people complain, and it's totally understandable because it's a physical change, and it's not a slow price increase. It's not like it's literally from generation. It's staggered. It's like $50, and then all of a sudden it's $60. But when you look at why it costs that much, it makes a lot more sense. I think counting for inflation, it'd be pretty static, and that's not even counting the fact that it costs more to make the game. And I've heard like Jaguar games used to be $7, which is insane.
That explains a lot, right? Not going to move a lot of those. But I mean, the whole industry has changed too, right? So raising the cost of your product is not the only way to make more money. You sell more product. So games are a lot more mainstream now, and it's pretty common, not everybody, but it's not unheard of that people have a PS3 and an Xbox 360.
Yeah,
and a Wii, right? I just mentioned Wii on this show. Like, it's so sad, right? That nobody's talking about the Wii U.
Yeah, it's like
nobody considers that next generation Wii U, but so they're selling a lot more games. Period. Plus, they're a little more expensive than they used to be. And they're talking about game industry being rivaling movie industry as far as overall revenues for the year on end. Mm-hmm. So, cost isn't everything. They probably could stand to lower the cost on a lot of games, but it's what the market supports. And Rob, you were kind of saying that earlier. Like, people are willing to pay $60 for these blockbuster games. They'll pay $60 for the new FIFA, the new Madden, without thinking about, is this really better? It's just, okay, that's my subscription.
Just to pose a quick question, because we have to start to wrap this up.
Okay.
2 questions. One, what do you think the price of both PS4 and Xbox One is? I'm going to say $600 apiece, maybe $500, but I'm going to go with 6.
It's hard to say. I mean, they've got a lot of hardware in there. Probably to start, I'd say 500, and then the first one to get it down to 300 will win.
Well, so I mean, I don't think it'll be 600. I mean, Sony Sony felt it when they put it out for 600 last
Yeah.
generation. They
Yeah.
lost considerably, and I don't think they want to make that mistake again. And I think the Xbox has to be more expensive because it has a Kinect. You know, like that's.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
That's what I was thinking. I mean, it'd be 500 plus the 100 for the Kinect.
So,
And
okay.
I think it'll come with 1 year of gold subscription for Xbox Live.
I still think 600 is going to be just. I think it's going to have a bad reception. I mean, it was really bad last time. It's kind of funny because Xbox was always the cheaper console, and now with Kinect, I can't imagine it being cheaper. I mean, they're really. I mean, and you never know. I mean, they could always subsidize it. It's not like companies have never subsidized, especially with companies like with Microsoft that has its hand in pretty much every single area. All it needs is like ebooks, and it has an entire entertainment industry. So I could see it subsidizing it just to keep it competitive.
And yeah, that's a good point. I think Microsoft is much better positioned to subsidize it. I mean, Sony's been having trouble their business the last couple of years, and they actually were talking about spinning off their entertainment division. But I mean, Microsoft has more cash on hand, and I think their business model is more ripe to put forward the Xbox One as a loss leader and because they've got an app store, or they've got the marketplace that's more robust than on PSN. And and they've got these other partnerships where they stand to make more money, not just selling hardware. You know, they have other revenue streams besides just selling the actual device.
Okay, so you have something to say?
Just one thing.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll do that. So I was gonna make a joke about how so you were saying the app ecosystem. I didn't think about that. They have a Windows 8 kernel. There's no reason why they can't maybe throw something in where you can use the marketplace from something. And I was going to make a joke about Angry Birds, but what if for the touchpad on the PS4? What if it's for indie games?
Clever.
Because if you for indie games, I mean, all the iPhone, everything is all touch-based. And they didn't do it with the Vita, but I don't see why they couldn't. And they specifically said indie games, that is important. I've read that indie developers actually have calls from Sony, and they're like, "We want you to be a part of." And
actually, they came out and said that they've had a lot of issues with One too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's weird because I feel like Microsoft pioneered it with Xbox Live. Like that was totally Xbox Live Arcade was huge, but and indie games are big now. I don't know. I wonder if the touchpad could be part of the indie strategy because think about how many games are touch based. I don't know.
All right, so as a final question, we've had a comment from one of our viewers, Jonathan. He wants to know what our expectations are of E3. So I'm going to say, but besides game, I mean, obviously, both of them are going to come out heavy with their exclusives, right? So you're going to see multiple new exclusives from each system that are going to be like, all right, this is why you need to buy our things. But more importantly, I think the Kinect and the Move are going to be two huge things. You're also going to see a lot more about Smart Glass. They did it at E3 I think it was E3 last year, right? Where they unveiled Smart Glass. They mentioned it a lot in the conference, and I think they're going to bring that up again. They brought it up, but didn't explain and go into detail how they're going to integrate Smart Glass yet.
Right.
This is one of the things from my wish list, which we'll have to talk about when we get closer to E3 maybe. But I think that Xbox needs to have more integration with Windows 8 devices and tablets and computers and Windows Phone 8. And obviously Smart Glass is a big push for that. And I just think a lot of it's going to be Kinect. And you're going to see a lot of big developers come out and say, this is how we're going to use Kinect in the next generation. It's going to be crazy.
Which is interesting because I feel like they haven't been rumbling to that at all. And I think you're right. I mean, they bundled the Kinect with it. That means it's important.
Right. I mean, it's got to be huge.
But I haven't heard anything about any new connections, but they kind of have to. So.
They have to. That's got to be the big thing. I think they're going to hold back until E3 to show up.
Yeah, I would agree. At E3, obviously it's going to be the games push, and they have to look at the points of differentiation. We already talked about the insides, pretty much the same. I mean, there's minor technical differences, but the insides are pretty much the same. So what's the differentiating factors? You pointed them out, Rob. It's the smart glass, and right now, smart glass is, it gives you some social elements of your avatar and your achievements, and it gives you some minor control over your Xbox, but outside of games. So if they could bring in the smart glass as a second screen for games to like touch control and stuff, basically get the functionality of the Wii of the screen on
last year, yeah.
Yeah, get the functionality of the screen on the Wii U controller, but not have that big ass clunky controller, and just have it on your phone or on your tablet on the device of your choice, because all it is an app. That would be really cool, and it would really help out with different types of games that have traditionally faltered on the Xbox, like strategy, real-time strategy, and things like that. The touch. Yeah, it would be much better.
Yeah. And I think Sony's going to push the Vita. That's one thing that they mentioned a lot. Is their
that's a bad strategy. There's no way I'm going to pay $300 for a portable gaming device.
I agree with you, but I think that was one of the things they highlighted in their press conference. Granted, they had a whole extra hour.
I'm sure they're going to talk about it. I just think it's a non-starter.
Oh, absolutely. But I think
Japan, it'll be huge.
Yeah, they're going to push the Vita because the whole idea was that you'd be able to play games through the cloud that you have on your PS4 on your Vita. So they're going to show that off. But I mean, like you said, I'm not going to pay $300 in addition to a $500 machine,
right,
to play games on a smaller screen. So
Project Glass is another important thing. I totally agree. I'm just really worried it's going to be another Kinect. When they first did it, you're like, this sounds awesome. I can control things on my phone and do, all the things. But you still haven't seen any. The coolest thing I saw, you can watch Game of Thrones and see the map on the thing. So I'm afraid, I really hope it doesn't turn into another Kinect where they just don't figure out how to do it.
You're right, and they announced it a year ago, and we haven't really heard anything about it since. So.
Yeah.
So at this point of what we know, which one are you guys going to buy?
I have to go.
Well, okay. Which one are you going to buy?
No, hold on. Let me explain myself first. I will say that I had a Dreamcast, and then I had a PS2.
Oh, I think you said
PS3.
I had a dream. Yeah.
I'm gonna start. My heart still belongs to that system, so you guys can just read stuff. But anyway, my point is that after my beloved Dreamcast, I had to depart. Well, I still have it, but I went Sony afterwards, right? I had PS2, I had PS3 first. I only recently got an Xbox.
Sony only.
I don't even have Xbox Live. Like I said, I mostly just got it because I could mod it. I will say that since then, and since I have all of these Windows devices, but more importantly, I think we didn't even talk about the whole social aspect of gaming now and how important that's going to be.
Gamers and losers. They don't even think together.
How important that's going to be in the next generation. You could go play it alone. Josiah and I will play games together. I think whoever can come up with a more solid strategy for incorporating social gaming is going to be the winners overall. And honestly, I haven't seen enough from either side to determine that yet. But since most of my friends in the U.S. have Xbox, that's probably when they'll go.
Yeah. Which, well, I know we're going over, but I remember reading recently. I didn't know this. So you know how YouTube is chock full of Let's Play videos where people show videos of them playing a game or like showing secrets and stuff. And I didn't realize a lot of companies, and I guess they've been doing it for a while, instead of blocking the content, because they can
monetize it.
Yeah, they start playing ads for them. So I wonder how they're going to turn that into something as you share things, and how they're going to turn that into something that's like a value-added property for them. But I'm sure it's on their minds. I'm waiting for the next Farmville, personally. But
dude, Plants vs. Zombies. Plants vs. Zombies is on Facebook now.
I know. And honestly, I really want to play it, but I don't want to have like all of my friends say, Shawn, with, I don't know.
I'm not going to lie. I've been playing it for a few days now.
I really want to try it out. It's Plants vs. Zombies.
It's good, dude. Whatever.
Josiah, Zombie 2 is coming out in July, so.
Yes, I'm excited for that too. All right, Josiah, what's your verdict?
Well, you know what I'm going to say. I don't buy first-gen stuff, so...
This is third-gen!
It's a brand new platform. I'm not going to buy it in the first year.
You can't use that argument for every single piece of technology that comes out.
Well, I'm going to wait and see, but I'm definitely leaning towards Xbox right now. Yes, I've been other than the Red Ring of Death experience that I had, I'm very happy with my Xbox 360. Even though I had the Red Ring of Death, I bought another one. That's how much I like the system, the platform. So, you know, I think they've got Xbox right now. Xbox One sounds like they have the smarter strategy to me. And we already talked about the insides are going to be similar enough. The thing I'm held up on, though, is I really don't like the idea of the Kinect always being on.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not so paranoid to seriously think it's a privacy issue, but I've heard examples already of existing Kinects where, you know, people were talking and they could be overheard, and they didn't realize it wasn't. So, you know, that could be fixed with some UI and some software to make sure people know when they're broadcasting audio and stuff. But you know, just too many things could go wrong. And then, like I said before, I think it's kind of broken in that, you know, unless they have some voice recognition, anybody can turn it on or off, or, you know, that sort of thing. So I kind of want to wait and see and let them work out the software kinks. And that's the good thing, is that it's mostly just software. But yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards the Xbox One.
I mean, do you think there's any chance? Well, I don't think they will, but where you could turn off the Kinect? I mean, I don't think.
Well, it has to be connected to use it.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, they could implement something where, or when I say turn off the Kinect, like the Kinect will be off, not in a full power state. I think it'll ruin their whole cool idea. So the only reason why I can see them doing it is too much pushback. But I don't know. It sounds like, so there. Just as a side note, there are three things, or there are two things. There's always on and always online, and people get confused with that. I kind of feel like always on is a definite. It's kind of a lock. Always online is the one where they're kind of figuring out what to do.
They're both going to be always on in the sense that they'll be in some low-powered state when they're off.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, but but the always online thing, I think, is people have been using it interchangeably, and they're definitely different things.
Right.
What was I going to say?
Join us, Shawn. Join us.
Yeah, Xbox. No, I agree with you guys. The PS3 or PS4 hasn't shown anything to me that's like, wow, this is really awesome. As I said before, I think there's going to be parity in terms of games, and you know, I don't see anything yet from PS4 that makes it any different than a higher spec PS3. Like, they have the share button,
right.
But okay, that's fine. I think it'll be. I mean, maybe the streaming thing, maybe, but I don't know. And side note, it's funny that the more I think about it, the more you do downloadable games like digital distribution. Like, I was legally downloading Max Payne 3, and it was 30 gigs. Imagine if every game was like 30 or 40 gigs.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a cap, I mean, assuming people don't buy 5 to 10 games a month, that's a lot of downloading. So it's, I don't know, that's something else to think about. But and the reason why I brought that up is it's downloading versus the Gaikai streaming, which is still using the internet, but it's not nearly. I mean, I don't think it'll add up to as much, but it'll be interesting. I guess we'll see. Hopefully, Sony will explain what their streaming system is. Hopefully, they'll show the PS4.
I'm sure they will at E3.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, they have to. They did that little teaser, and now we know it's black. And
it's going to look exactly the same. All right. Any final thoughts from either of you? I know we kind of ran over.
Yeah, I'll decline to comment because it'll just start us on another 30-minute conversation. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is definitely the edge to Xbox for the round one, and I'm sure we'll have much more to talk about in a couple of weeks for E3. We, once again, are part of a larger group called Commentist Bloc, which we've been talking about the website for some time. I promise it is still coming. Eventually, it'll come
We don't
up.
understand how time works. I don't know.
Yes. We are too busy bringing these high production shows to you. So join us again next week for the Unwind podcast, Thursday nights at 8. I am Rob Stella. You can find me on Twitter at Robbie Stills. Josiah. I never remember it.
Josiah Hills, and I'm on Twitter at Josie4628.
And Shawn is too cool for Twitter, which eventually I'm just going to make a Twitter handle called Shawn's Too Cool for Twitter, and that'll be his handle. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next week. Take care.